Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Well, it's been a long year and I'm sorry this video wasn't out earlier. I wasn't in the country and wasn't able to record when I usually do to upload this video, which is usually on New Year's Eve. And I don't think anything will change from now on. It's just that this one had to be issued late and I couldn't really upload it until now. But yeah, here it is. 2023 was a year of surprises with also many disappointments and flops from major studios. I have plenty of opinions that conflict with what many think and others that I think you will agree with, and I hope you will. I won't be explaining every single movie in this list, of course, and I will be citing particular ones that I really think I should talk about or didn't really get to earlier in the year. Or, well, now it's 2024, I keep forgetting. 2023 has been a year of third movies, like 2022 was a year of second movies, from what I could tell. Or, well, there were 3 third movies this year, I think, but in like big franchises, but that still counts. This year was also a big year of some really good films and dramas that did receive wide appeal. For example, Oppenheimer. And though a lot of major studios had their franchises fail, all of the successful movies from big studios have really been IP and franchise based, but just actually well done, and that actually deliver on entertaining the audience in the way that they want to from these particular IPs. So overall, a wild year for film with a lot of films that just feel bigger than the previous few years of the 2020s, and I think this to be the best year of the 2020s for filmmaking yet in the 2020s. So without further ado, hi, my name is Tyler, and I love film. And today, I will be doing my year in review for 2023, 14 to 15 days late, depending on when YouTube lets this video go out. Starting out, this is with the worst film of the year, in my opinion, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And yeah, there was nothing really else to expect from me when I watched this film. There's nothing else to also expect from this film when watching it. It's not trying to be good, and it, of course, is not very good. The film does, though, earn points from me for being kind of entertaining and fun to watch at some points and laugh at. And also the fact that at times the aesthetics of the characters' costumes can be pretty creepy. And there are some good kills in this. It would also be vital of me to mention that this film has, of course, no character arcs, character development. It really doesn't try to say anything, obviously. Isn't really too great of an experience watching. And it doesn't even feel like it's trying to tell a story. Overall, due to a lack of anything that should really make this film good, I give this film a 3 out of 10. I should also mention that a lot of this ranking will be done via Letterboxd, as I show images of my rough draft ranking and ratings and my actual official rankings in Letterboxd. I will pick out certain films that I wanted to get deeper into, but I will talk about most of them just by skimming over, such as Ghosted, which is pretty much a bland and derivative film that is subpar in almost every way. Most of the actual ratings that I can only do in my notes pretty much speak for themselves. I even included Spider-Man Lotus on here. Three Musketeers, My Lady was a pretty decent film, and I had fun with Expendables even though it wasn't very good. Plane was decent, Fast Sex was absolutely bonkers, Machine was hilarious, and like that we'll be getting into our next film, Barbie. Barbie was not a film I was going and planning to love this year, but one I definitely intended to watch, especially because of the Barbenheimer phenomenon. I, of course, watched it, and as you'll see later in the video, I do not think it to be anywhere near as good as Oppenheimer, and I don't believe it to live up to the hype that much. But it's not bad, and it tells its story successfully, and has its main character grow, and of course has some memorable moments. My main problems with this film stem from the fact that it is very shallow and surface level with its themes and story and message, as well as the fact that I don't believe it to really be that funny. I also don't like the differences in the filmmaking from Barbie Land, I think, whatever it's called, and the real world, as in the real world, the filmmaking feels less prominent and less well done, with plenty of pointless cuts and shots thrown in that don't look particularly great. The film tries to be introspective and deep with this character, but I think it fails completely because of how surface level it feels, because it doesn't actually dive into the psychology of its character. It just shows that she wants something more, without really delving into why. I've talked about the Barbie movie enough today, and overall, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. I already reviewed Shazam 2, and all these ratings pretty much speak for themselves. I did not hate The Exorcist Believer. I think it told its story in the way it needed to be told, just in the most boring and bland way possible. Very much like every one of these films on screen right now, especially 65 and The Pope's Exorcist. I also very much liked all of these films. Elemental was decent, so was A Haunting in Venice. I already reviewed Transformers Rise of the Beast, but I did like that. Silent Night was entertaining, and Strays was hysterical. Same thing with all of these. pretty much speak for themselves with their ratings. Saltburn was shy of greatness because of how overt everything was. Very fun, entertaining films that aren't too special, such as Thanksgiving and the Super Mario Brothers movie, and some very solid and recommendable films. I didn't love Poor Things as much as everybody else, but it was a very good film. So was When Evil Lurks, and the Hunger Games prequel was much better than expected, and Cocaine Bear was, well, its rating speaks for itself, but I very much enjoyed it. These are all very solid films as well. All of them told very compelling stories, but weren't trying to be overtly great, but were nonetheless entertaining. And now we get into the great territory. May December I don't think is as great as everybody says, but still a very introspective look at a subject. Sanctuary was a very solid film. I absolutely loved Sisu, Evil Dead Rise, and the Venture Brothers movie. Without further ado, let's dive into our next film, Five Nights at Freddy's. Okay, though it had its problems, I really liked the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. I'm a pretty decent fan of the games and especially the lore and story within the games, and I think this is a pretty good adaptation of everything we've been wanting from it. It mixes the story up to try and make it more commercial and set some stuff up for a more movie-like adaptation, which I'm completely fine with. The only downsides I find with this adaptation of the material is the fact that it's not really that scary, and there's not many jump scares or thrilling moments in this film when there easily could have been, and the fact that it doesn't feel true to the original games really at all in terms of the technical aesthetic of looking through the camera and Mike actually being a security guard in this movie. Otherwise, though some may deem it to be generic or say that it falls flat, I believe the story and heart of this film and everything to do with Mike and his dreams works really well, and his relationship with his sister is really the core of the film and really keeps it together. I like most of how the story and script played out. There were some interesting things that happened, interesting ideas explored, interesting themes explored, but I just wish that things like the direction were elevated much more. But all performances are solid, and this film did have a very charismatic villain and a nice tone, as well as some nice-looking cinematography in most of the scenes. Though the film is not truly scary, I think it will be a great gateway horror film for many children. And overall, this film gets the job done. I give this film a 9 out of 10. Oh boy, here it is. Now we get into the top 20 of my films of 2023. Another film that I believe gets the job done, that delivers on many levels while disappointing on others, is Rebel Moon, a film that tries to tell a very well-rounded sci-fi story. Must be commended for everything it accomplishes in this film, bringing this group of characters together, having some world building, and a good arc for its main character while setting up the next film. While not trying to be a masterpiece, but instead an entertaining Zack Snyder space opera sci-fi film. This film definitely has a few issues, namely the fact that it feels rushed and the script, but I was very entertained throughout. Film impresses and really exceeds what the average film like this should be. I very much enjoyed Napoleon. It wasn't the groundbreaking next level masterpiece that I was hoping for it to be, but for what it is a deconstruction of the nature of history itself and how we perceive it. Napoleon, and of course the love story between Josephine and Napoleon with great action sequences and enthralling situations throughout. I give this film a 9.2 out of 10. The Killer was a very satisfying film to get from David Fincher, and I'm so glad we got it this year. Not to dilute any of his previous works such as Mank, this film really shines and I think is the best recent Fincher that we've gotten really since Gone Girl. Well, that's not really a lot unless you include all the projects he's worked on. Needless to say, this feels pretty much like a perfect Fincher film. It is not a masterpiece, but it is a very great film that dives into the head of its main character and provides a well-communicated and introspective look on society. I give this film a 9.2 out of 10. I should have mentioned this in my 2023 comic book, superhero movie, and TV show video that I did a few weeks ago, but nonetheless, it is here and it should have been on this list. Please forgive. But yeah, this film is a very good animated film. It feels just as fresh as the first Spider-Verse, and the only reason I put it above Across the Spider-Verse is because I prefer the more character-focused nature of this movie over the story. Across the Spider-Verse, a film which I already reviewed, which is why I'm not doing it here. But yes, this film is one that I very much like. I give this film a 9.4 out of 10. Coming in 10th place is John Wick Chapter 4. This film had upgraded everything: action, cinematography, direction, story, scale, and focus on John Wick's character as compared to the other two sequels. I do not believe it to be as rich as the first John Wick film, but it is a phenomenal film in and of itself. It is epic and absolutely insane. I would not like them to have changed anything about this film. I give this film a 9.5 out of 10. Creator was a film I was very much looking forward to, and I believe it absolutely delivers. The film looks beautiful with even better cinematography than the last film I just mentioned by Greg Fraser, and with great direction by Gareth Edwards. I am so glad to see him back, and the fact that he's making a film like this. I love his minimalistic style for this film. I loved how the film explored its concept, used its world and budget, and how it took me on a journey with these characters. This is a film that I felt very strongly towards while watching, and I give it a 9.6 out of 10. Okay, upcoming are the absolute top films of the year for me, starting with my 7th place, The Holdovers. My only real problem with this film is I feel like it should have said a little less in some scenes and really explored its characters in a different way, though the dialogue is great. And again, this doesn't apply to the whole film. But yeah, this film was great. It has great cinematography and direction, and the film is just really nothing that we've really seen before. The fact that it's modern and it looks sanitized, but it's really trying to call out to the 70s, but its direction is really like nothing from that era or from this era. There is nothing really generic about this film. It has phenomenal pacing, and the way the story unfolds is done masterfully, and the characters are just, of course, great. How could you not love this film? If you haven't seen it, I recommend you see it, as I give it a 9.7 out of 10. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is a film that I do not think is fully better than Mission Impossible Fallout, even though I really should consider it that way. It's just this film doesn't focus as much on the character of Ethan Hunt, more so on his team and the actual action of the story, but the action is phenomenal. It's pretty much everything you'd want from a Mission Impossible film. I mean, it could be done better, but for what it is a great film that should be cherished. I recommend you watch it. It is very entertaining and pretty much has every aspect an action movie like this needs, as it is fast-paced, fun, and has great character arcs and ideas that are being explored. I give this film a 9.8 out of 10. I'm not too sure about my rating for this film, but what I do know is Godzilla Minus One is completely and utterly amazing. This film blows absolutely everything out of the water, and the fact that it was made for the equivalent of 14 million US dollars is insane. There's really nothing to complain about, but the fact that I don't think this is the greatest film ever because of the significance of its themes, but it has a well-handled monster, a great main characters, and melodrama that's sure to entertain. I give this film a 9.8 out of 10. Oppenheimer was a great film. I will get my problems with it out of the way first, which is the fact that I feel like some of it is sloppy, with certain editing choices and shots not really being the best, as well as the fact that this film uses a lot of its technical gimmicks, I feel, too much, that are still powerful throughout the film, but could have been more powerful if used less, making the surreal sequences even more impactful. Otherwise, Oppenheimer was a great film that was very introspective into the mind of his character and all of his concepts. Christopher Nolan's style fit perfectly with this film, and I think is the best he's been technically since, well, ever. It, of course, has great performances, a haunting final sequence, and, of course, an epic story told beautifully. I give this film a 9.8 out of 10. Now, one of my top films of the year is Sound of Freedom, and whatever you think of this movie politically, you're probably wrong. It does not try to make any overt political statement and only references anything related to religion twice. One time it shouldn't even count. And most of all, this film definitely does not exploit its subject in order to make a machismo-filled action film, because there's absolutely no machismo aspects that are over the top or really action elements to this film. It is a story that needs to be told about a terrible thing that happens in this world. It is a quiet, slow burning, and realistic thriller. It is a film that will make you uncomfortable, on the edge of your seat, emotional, relieved, driven, and maybe even hopeful. And yeah, I'm sure it has problems. I'm not calling this the best film ever made, and I definitely don't think it is from a technical standpoint, but I can't find it in my heart to give this film anything less than the rating I'm about to give it, because of its subject matter and because of the fact that this movie fought so hard to get made and is finally here. And I must praise it for how beautiful its cinematography is, how perfect its direction is, and how phenomenal its lead performances are. It is a film that, if you have a heart, will stick with you forever, and that you too should praise. I give this film a 10 out of 10. It is insane that Killers of the Flower Moon is this perfect. It's an absolutely enthralling story that just unravels in a way that your eyes are just glued to the screen, with great characters and just a message that is perfectly communicated through the story and Martin Scorsese's phenomenal and stylistic direction. This film was absolutely entertaining and wild ride throughout. I give this film a 10 out of 10. My favorite film of the year that I was looking forward to, that impressed and satisfied me, that I think is the most perfect that I've watched this year. I believe the rest of my ratings to be pretty self-explanatory, but The Boy and the Heron is also in my top 5. Well, it's just a great film. It tells the story great, and I just feel some parts were a little weird and distasteful, which is the only reason why I guess it doesn't have a 10. Otherwise, thank you guys for watching this video and spending your time with me. And finally, a belated Happy New Year.